All right, Reverend Crystal Cox, Goddess Church. This is part 2 of alternative medicine, and I'm very excited. Whee! Can you tell? Okay. So, I never went to the doctors, never went to Western medicine, mainstream, anything. Still was into healing people with herbs, educating people on high alkaline therapies, dendritic cell therapy, SEACT, Edgar Case, Renee Case, Wolf and Dr. Brewer, the high oxygen therapy, all of that. Just loved it, right? Then I still eating organics. I left housing in 2014 of May. I had left a life of home ownership. I moved my entire life. I was renting a place, and I moved out of that place while I was evicted. And I started eating out a lot. And I still tried to eat organic, and I kept that going for a while. And then in 2016, the Mandela effect became really clear to me. Okay, so I call it a quantum shift, a quantum, a timeline shift. I'd always been into studying things like psychic surgery, quantum phenomena. I always believed that positive thought creates a positive life. Okay, over time. Okay, and that if I'm doing this high alkaline therapy to cure cancer, the number one thing that it worked is because I 100% knew it would frickin' work, right? Belief. All healing really is faith healing. We're going to talk a lot about energy healing too. I have seen miracles with death sentence diseases cured in energy, right? And why does chemo work with some and not with other? And chemo destroys everything in the body and then kills you. Some it don't. It's barbaric. But the people who choose that route, oftentimes they do it because their family pressures them, social pressure, because they think, well, I want to do the right thing, I want to do what the doctor says. Well, the doctor's lying, right? But in the big picture, to trust the people that did that, and if they crossed over from it, then they did. And trust that that was their journey. So I'm not dissing people that, are doing chemo or radiation or have a different thing. I'm just sharing what I've experienced in my studies. Okay, so it became a way of life almost kind of in an instant that it didn't matter what I ate. It mattered what I thought. I had shifted to a reality where there was a white sun. I know the sun was yellow. My heart was on the left. I moved to a reality where my heart was in the center. My kidneys were back here. The kidneys changed. So in what people call the Mandela effect, which is a timeline shift, tons of anatomy changes, tons of sky changes. We used to be on the Sagittarius arm, now we're on the Orion arm. I moved thousands of light years into a different version of me. I moved into a different body. I know my eyes very well. I did not have a dark circle around the colored part. Now, a lot of these became apparent and I knew I shifted. So I went, well, wait a minute, how did I shift? And if I shifted, it doesn't really matter what I eat, right? Because my body changes all the time. So I've studied that heavily for the last 4 years in all manner of ways, channeled information, bringing in information. And we change every minute, every second of every day based on our thoughts and our beliefs. And so the next step became very different for me, right? So, and because of how I was living and not having much money, I started eating different. So I stopped eating organics. I stopped, because they were too expensive, and I had a different way of life. And then things kind of just transitioned into something else. And there was a point in time where I didn't have money for food, and I was really, really cold. And I was going through part of a dark night of the soul, and I was thinking, okay, well, living in a car, I don't want to get up and go to the bathroom all the time, right? I wasn't 100% comfortable with that type of lifestyle then. I am now. And so I stopped drinking around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then I started eating meals every other day. And then I realized, I came across dry fasting. Now, I had always thought that if you don't eat or drink for 3 days, you die. I don't know why I thought that. I mean, I had studied like Mutant Message, and I knew the Aboriginal healers, and I knew, people back, ancient times that would fast, and with or without water. So I don't know why I believe that. Probably because Western medicine don't want you to know, and propaganda. So it didn't really fully occur to me that not eating and not drinking would cure me of anything and everything. Add that to my belief, done. So all of the herbs, all of the plants, all of the stuff I used to cure people and myself for decades suddenly became mute, because I can shift to the reality where I'm cured in any moment based on my own thoughts. And I had moved realities. So rife frequencies, right? There is a frequency for everything. So when you can Google like the frequency for, the rife frequency machine, there's something called Z-App. It's not for iPhones, for Android, and it and you can play the different frequencies. So like Arnica Montana has a frequency, magnesium. There's a frequency for every disease, every cancer, a frequency will cure it. You put off a frequency, different diseases put off a different frequency. And your thoughts create different frequencies. So I used to think thinking positive would create a positive life. Okay, great, over time. But I didn't realize that if I could fully shift my belief in this now moment, I can shift. And that's psychic surgery. You convince the patient that they're well. Also, study the Raymond Gray stuff. We'll talk a lot about energy healing stuff, but take them to that moment in time where he changed the past. I'd studied that for decades. I didn't 100% get it, but I did it. And it really helped me. Where I would go back at things like my dad would say to me that was just horrible, and I would go back and change that moment. And then you change that moment in the future. And it's not about, you don't really change the past. When we bring the past in the moment, when we think about it or worry about it or lament over it, we are time traveling. We're bringing that moment back. We can bring it back however we want. We can change it, and then we change it in our cellular memory. We change it in our body. Now, some things take time, but the point from the last video to this one is that I've shifted to vibrational medicine. So I do drink Coke now. I do eat sweet cereal now. I don't eat fully organics now. I eat what I want. And that kind of happened from, yes, living in a vehicle and having no money and shifting into those other ways. Even in a way. But my thought, if I believe it's bad, it's bad. Okay? So back to dry fasting. So I kind of did it every other day. I started going, well, this is interesting. What I feel like taking like 8 hours, 12 hours, no food or water. So then I started studying it, and I studied a massive amount on it. And it's a miracle. It's free, right? No food, no water. You do 12 hours. You can do, I have a huge playlist on YouTube if you're interested in that. It gets rid of parasites, but some of those parasites crave and have voices. So if you have carbs late at night, you crave carbs in the morning, you think it's hunger pain. There's so many things that I thought was hunger pain that weren't hunger pain. So if you deprive your body of food and drink, it goes after the old cells, okay? Your body eats tumors. Your body uses up fat for water, H2O. It uses the, you don't have the water in it, it creates the body from excess fat. Creates the body. It's just so exciting, because the most exciting thing about dry fasting to me is that you slough off old cells and you grow new stem cells, right? So, you get strong without working out. You get your brain fog's gone. You're clear on every level. Tumors, anything at all that's going on in your body knows what to do. So you get the old cells slough off and the new ones come in, and your body recreates what it needs to recreate. We should be able to regrow arms, teeth, everything. I mean, in the perfect state. But it's a matter of consciousness, and it's a matter of belief. But when I realized all of this, it changed everything, right? So in dry fasting, so now I would recommend to anyone curing cancer or curing anything to do dry fasting. Also with the cancer stuff, the Rick Simpson oil is amazing. my email is reverendcrystalcox@gmail.com if you want more information on the cancer stuff and you're not quite to the vibrational part of it yet. So now it's like when people are like sitting around drinking Coke or whatever, they're like, well, maybe that's unhealthy, maybe it's not. But for some people it really is. But I do dry fast. I still do, off and on now. I did it like, just tons for like 6 months, and it's an amazing feeling. And you have all this time, right? Because you don't have dishes, you don't have shopping, you quit at like 6 at night, and you give yourself at least 12 hours. So I was doing 12, 16, 18 hours. Now, the body knows what to do. So instead of 50 pamphlets at the doctor's office for each little disease, and fibromyalgia, for example, has every symptom for everything everywhere, fibromyalgia, right? Each little kidney thing, and everyone's got their own little name. Okay, if you slough off the old cells and you bring in new, your body knows what to do. Okay, you got your smart TV, smart computers. Yeah, every cell in your body is a smart cell, right? Every cell in your body contains everything it needs to know. So if your thoughts are high and good, you're feeling good, you're sloughing off the old, you're bringing in the new, then you're regrowing new cells within this new energy, right? And it's healing you. Dry fasting, I'm sure some of you healers out there are familiar with, healing crisis. So it brings up old stuff. So say you had like a knee injury or in your 20s, you might have it full on. You might feel like you're going to die. You might feel like you have to go to the emergency room. Passes in a few hours or a day. It brings up the old to flush it out. Kind of like, and we'll talk about this in another video, I'm really a big fan of L. Ron Hubbard, yes, it's Scientology, but his studies on niacin flushing out radiation. And so, so now I don't talk about or teach about alternative medicine like I used to, with vitamins and minerals and herbs and your diet and high potency foods. I do believe in organics and sustainability, and it's beautiful, and it's a beautiful way of life. But more than that, I've seen miracles in shifting someone's consciousness and belief to where one minute they might have something they're going to die tomorrow, and the next minute they absolutely don't. Forget that guy's name, but I posted the video many times of where they watched on an ultrasound, where they did, in the surgery room, they did this energy healing, and the tumor was gone. So it was on the ultrasound, and then it was gone. So if the patient's unconscious, how are we shifting their belief, right? Our intention. So, but also, like say the 6 people around healing, they're creating a version of that person they want. And we'll talk a lot more about that too. But now I know that energy healing alone, especially if you're working with a healer, the best healers to work with are the ones that have worked on themselves. So if your healer's worked on removing programs, removing triggers, spend a lot of time alone, works on being the best version of themselves all the time, they have a higher frequency. So when they're in your energy field and healing you, they're raising your frequency and they're healing you. So to me now, it's all about frequency, energy, and belief. Because I know that this body's only this second. I didn't know. I'd studied channeled stuff. I got a psychic reading when I was a kid. I mean, I studied the Bible with my grandma. I didn't, we had some of the self-help stuff, the codependent stuff was kind of as new agey as you got. The Seth material was out in the 70s, but I didn't have access to any of that. So I had the Bible. I had like Psalms and Matthews, and so I studied that. I studied positive thought. I studied channeled information, the Pleiadian stuff, Barbara Marciniak, Cryon, when they first come out, and into that my whole life, and visions and stuff myself. But I didn't know it was literal. So I didn't know that if I really, not just positive thought, but if I really kept working towards finding my beliefs, and that my belief, whether they're unconscious or conscious, literally creates my physical reality. So if I believe that cancer exists, it exists for me. If I believe it's not curable, it's not. If I believe I have to go to the doctor so they can tell me all these things that are wrong with me, then that's what I believe. If you don't go get checkups to see if you're okay, you're probably going to be okay. Okay, so I've always just known this stuff to a certain degree. I never bought into war. I never bought into earthly things I could see through my whole life. Like, I came here and I knew all that. I didn't know that if you thought positive, you could shift into the reality that you wanted. And it's not really that simple, because it's like, okay, well, I believe this, so I'm gonna. No, you don't believe it. So you have to keep identifying beliefs to get to that level. It's hard to go from total lack to total not lack. That's just an example. You go in stages and in what you believe. So do you believe you could step out your door right now and there's $1 million on the porch in a briefcase? Probably not. Do you believe that you could walk down the sidewalk and maybe find a 50 or 100? Yeah, probably believable. So you have to get yourself to the levels of what you really, really believe is possible for you. So the biology of belief. Belief changes. Now I studied this stuff in book 2 of Cryon, right? So book 2 of Cryon would have been in the early 90s. I didn't get it. I thought I got it. Talk to the cells in your body. I loved the Cryon stuff on your body being like an example of a car. So you have a car, and then one day the car completely changes every way that it runs, and the manual is automatically updated. Now this is before I knew about what people call a Mandela effect. And that's what happened. And then Cryon saying, well, what happens in this next changeover, we'll be watching it from our windows. We're doing it now. So all of that stuff that I studied and all that channeled information became really clear once I saw that I moved physical realities. And I went, oh, okay, well, I'm done fighting corruption because I'm creating it. I'm done teaching people about herbs and how to heal their body with plant medicine for the most part, because it's the belief that creates it, right? So I would tell people like with the lymph glands, if they get you under the knife for surgery when you're removing your breast in breast cancer, they find cancer in a lymph gland, they'll remove them all. They don't even wake you up. And then you get that big arm and you get all this stuff. When I have known people that have went in one day and had cancer in their lymph glands and the next day didn't. Okay, so taking your lymph glands is just so I'd say just because a car needs an oil change doesn't mean you get rid of the whole frickin' car, right? To cut off body parts to get rid of cancer when the blood runs through everywhere is baloney. I'm like, you got to cure the whole body. You bring in the alkaline, well, now I'm past that, and I'm like, we shift bodies all the time based on what we believe is possible. And so now it's more of a vibrational medicine, which actually takes you all the way back to understanding everything else in a different way. Like homeopathy, for example, is a vibrational medicine, right? It's an intention. Some things, I guess, with Reiki, I do energy healing. I don't really, I am a Reiki master, but I don't call it that. But like the symbols, if something's been used and it's an intention that this means this, and it's done over and over in different timelines, different dimensions, different people, we haven't talked about different versions of you in different timelines yet, but then it becomes the intention that this means this. And so that's more like what it is, what we're talking about. So if you have cancer diagnosed and you're like, okay, well, what do I do? What do I do, doctor? Well, cancer's caused by fear, and it's more fear by listening to the doctor. I love this stuff, this energy healing documentary, this Candace Pert, P-E-R-T, talking about going to a therapist and, let me make sure this is still recording, and restoring, right? So when we talk about our issues, we keep recreating them. And so she, not really, even though she is a therapist, or she's passed away now, but I digress. Every time you tell that story, you create that reality again. And she also talked about, like Western medicine, they studied on dead bodies, right? So they didn't factor in energy. So your mind, your thoughts, your energy field, that's all vibrational medicine. That's all who we are. Like in Kirlian photography, right? You cut the leaf in half, you still see the whole leaf. Stories of people when they've lost their leg, the leg was tied up behind them. They feel like they're sitting on it all the time. So energy healers can bring that down because they tied it up in surgery when they cut it. And in Kirlian photography, you can see that. Leaves, trees, the outline, the energy field is there. Okay? It's already there the minute the thing starts. So, I mean, like, well, I just flashed on a frog because I've seen the frog ones, but even, the baby has the imprint for the adult. And so thoughts change that. But the energy field exists whether you physically do or not. And that's what the Mandela effect stuff really showed. I exist. I exist with or without this body. And I remember in my early 20s, I realized that if I was a dog, or a chair, or a table, or a butterfly, I would know me as me. Some of those things wouldn't look in mirrors, but if they did, I would know that as me. I'm a chair, right? I'm inside. I know me as me. So whatever vehicle I'm in, my consciousness lives on. And with the noticing that I'd moved to a reality with a white sun, it's so liberating because there is no death. Your consciousness moves to another reality. And so, anyway, there's a lot more on that, but we're going to stop this for now and continue later. I love you. Bye for now. Apparently I didn't shut that off. Where's that off button? Okay. Apparently I'll have to move.